3 on the grids and top 3 in your race 1 yesterday afternoon. Watch for the lights. It's the Tissot Superpole race at the Mottel Czech round for 2025, and it's underway with another flying start from 4th position for Alex Lowes. Let's see what he can do with it in towards turn 1. Toprak Razgatlioglu's rather been left. He's picked off by Danilo Petrucci, so another bite between himself and Nicolo Bulliger in the early stages, and he's going to have to be careful on the exit of turn 2. No, he isn't. He's going to go full jack and charge after Danilo Petrucci and try and make his way back through into 2nd position. Was wondering whether there was an opportunity for Alex Lowes to get through into the provisional podium places there. Bautista with a lightning getaway. He's already up into 6th place.
Yeah, Bautista made a good start, and Sam Lowes on the number 14 bike swept across him on the run into 1 and 2, and that's what dropped him in that 1 position. But for Bautista, 10th to 6th, good start.
Immediately puts Alvaro Bautista into podium contention, doesn't it, from 6th place. Another man worth mentioning who's had another good start is Jonathan Ray. Yesterday, of course, he was able to leap straight up into those top 8 positions. He's done the same again here in race number 1. Now a question of whether he can defend that aggressively over the 10-lap distance here as Toprak Razgatlioglu attacks the tail of Danilo Petrucci. He'll want to get through on him swiftly because Bulliger's pulling nicely away. 0.4 of a second, the gap between 1st and 2nd places, and Toprak makes his lunge early in the lap through turn 17, and Petrucci's then left vulnerable to Alex Lowes behind. So it's Bulliger and Razgatlioglu at the front, as it was this time yesterday, with Petrucci, Alex Lowes, Sam Lowes, and the key difference compared to race 1 yesterday afternoon is that superior start from Alvaro Bautista. We'll see if he can attack Sam Lowes immediately down the start finish straight here and in towards turn number 1 at the start of lap number 2. Remember, Bautista's last quarry in race 1 yesterday afternoon was Sam Lowes. Sam moves to the inside line. Bautista's got the standard racing line. He will pull alongside. If Lowes can get it stopped, then Bautista will have to settle in. Jonathan Ray running deep there in towards turn 1. Gathers it up in time, having continued his battle with Axel Bassani.
Yeah, big save for Johnny there as well. It looked like he was sliding on that front for quite a few metres, so Jonathan Ray doing a decent job here at the start of this one.
Bit of a moment through the right-hander there for Alvaro Bautista, but he's managed to save that one. He's still right on the tail of Sam Lowes in this battle for 5th.
Yeah, just for Alvaro as well, we know that on the exit of that last corner, Lowes is strong, so once the grip's there, it's going to be quite difficult for Bautista.
At the moment we're watching this group, it's over a second already, the gap to Toprak Razgatlioglu. Danilo Petrucci did not have a lot of pace this time around on that opening lap and a half or so as Bautista runs wide, and Iker Lecuona comes through, and Jonathan Ray with the opportunity to come past as well. That's bad news for Bautista because he was eyeing up a move on Sam Lowes to move himself up into the top 5, and he's wide again here, Alvaro Bautista, with Jonathan Ray and Axel Bassani now right on his tail.
Yeah, and it's not like Alvaro to make that many mistakes, so we'll just have to wait and see if it happens again for him. Then it's a clear sign that something's wrong from at this stage, but that's going to give Johnny a lot of confidence to try and attack him.
Meanwhile, up at the front, Toprak Razgatlioglu, who was half a second down at the start of this lap, is now right on the tail of Nicolo Bulliger. It took him until the start of lap 5 yesterday. It might be as early as the start of lap 3 here. Coming off the final turn, we ride on board with Nicolo Bulliger, looking back at Toprak Razgatlioglu, gaining all the time, less than 0.2 of a second between them over the line. Heavy braking, one of the heaviest braking points of the season in towards turn 1, but Toprak's not quite close enough this time.
Yeah, it doesn't have to make the move just yet. Toprak's clearly got a little bit more performance than Bulliger at this stage, and you can see he's able to use less road on the run down in towards turn 5 and 6. Have a look at the change of direction here. The Ducati tends to be a bike that's very easy to flick from one side to the other, but Toprak's just able to put his bike in much better positions. We saw that in yesterday's race as well, and he's just comfortable. He's able to ride wherever he wants it to put his bike. Bulliger's having to defend quite a bit from Toprak, obviously, but we'll see if Toprak's able to make the move onto the bridge into turn 15.
Next opportunity for Toprak is that turn 15 as he closes all the time on Nicolo Bulliger. He'll make it even earlier than that into turn 13. That's a very unusual place to make the move, but Razgatlioglu has got it done. A lap 3 of 10, and Toprak Razgatlioglu leads the way once again here in Most.
Yeah, and for Bulliger, obviously the big thing is the gap of a second and a half to Petrucci. Still fairly comfortable for him for those 9 points in second. It's going to be difficult for him to be able to attack on Razgatlioglu unless Toprak makes a small mistake.
Yes, Petrucci not looking particularly strong at this stage of the race, and he's coming under pressure from Alex and Sam Lowes, both within 0.4 of a second of him, with an opportunity to get onto the podium here.
Yeah, there's going to be a podium. It's a play for a lot of riders back there, and the likes of the two Lowes. Lecuona always comes good at the end of a Superpole race as well.
Axel Bassani, I can tell you, has been given a double long lap penalty for a jump start, and that's a shame for him because he's riding in the top 9 places at present as Nicolo Bulliger attacks Toprak Razgatlioglu into turn 1. was always pretty unlikely that he was going to be able to outbrake Toprak there, and Toprak just cuts back through to lead once again on lap 4.
But he puts the bike on the inside line. You're able to take that high ground and determine whether or not you're able to attack and try and make a move on Razgatlioglu. We saw this a couple of times already this season from Buluga. He doesn't get bullied by Toprak. He tries to attack him, and even in Portimao we saw where he was willing to put the bike in a place where he could make a move on Razgatlioglu. He wasn't trying to just follow him home.
Toprak leads then ahead of Buluga in second. Gaps 1.5 seconds to Danilo Petrucci, and opening all the time as he holds back Alex and Sam Lowe's. Iker Lecuona another 0.6 of a second back, having got through on Alvaro Bautista. Gap to Bautista pretty static at the moment, half a second. Bautista sitting in P7. We know he'll come on stronger as the race goes on. Axel Bassani behind him's got a double long lap penalty. That's going to rule him out of contention for a top 9 spot. It will promote Jonathan Ray, give him a better chance of a place on the third row of the grid for race 2 this afternoon. And Jari Montella also in line to benefit, although he's right in the clutches of Xavi Vierge, Andrea Locatelli, Remy Gardner and Michael Van Mark.
Yeah, you can see on the run down in towards the last section there as well for Buluga. Holds that tighter line into turn 20 where we are looking at right now, and then he was still able to carry the speed through the exit at 21, so we'll see if he's able to get close enough to Toprak. I think he was those extra couple of bike lengths further back now, so it'll be difficult for him to be able to attack into turn 1.
Buluga closing right up on Razgatlioglu, but again, surely he will run deep in. No, Buluga gets it stopped very nicely indeed at the start of lap 5, and Toprak's going to have to repay the compliment elsewhere.
The reason for that was he was a lot closer across the line using that slipstream, so that change of lines through 20 and 21 seemed to help Buluga be able just to attack a little bit earlier on the straight, and then you're in a little bit more of a comfort zone to be able to break in towards turn 1. Good stuff from Buluga.
Again through turn 6 and 7, Razgatlioglu's got the superior line, but there's no way to use it on the southern loop. This is the tight turn 10. Buluga will fire out of there and try and maintain his advantage over Toprak. Razgatlioglu, yesterday's race 1 winner, of course. Buluga looks to have come back stronger, but again, Toprak will not yield. Just as he made his move on Buluga there at turn 13 in the early stages, he's done so again. Carbon copy there on lap 5.
Yeah, 2 great Superbike riders going at it right now, and for Nicola Buluga, after those injuries that he suffered in his crash on Friday, it's good to see Toprak there. A little bit of a bobble over one of the bumps through turn 16. Yeah,
found himself a little bit wide on the exit of turn 15. It sort of put him offline for the next one, and now Buluga it is who's got the run.
Let's see if Buluga does the same thing by being a little bit tighter into the penultimate corner compared to Razgatlioglu. We saw yesterday Buluga would run up towards the outside curb and try and just use that little bit more track compared to Toprak through here to carry the speed onto the straight. He's again a little bit closer than he was a couple of laps ago, so for Buluga we'll see if there's going to be another opportunity to attack into 1. You're coming from a fair bit back here on Razgatlioglu though.
Half race distance, and Toprak holds it this time in towards turn 1, and Buluga's gone straight on, and that's game over in terms of the battle for race victory surely, because Buluga will be required to give up a second to Toprak, as that will enable Razgatlioglu now to escape. His advantage, thankfully for him, was 2.6 seconds over Danilo Petrucci in third.
When we rode on board, you could see how late Toprak was braking. You could see how hard he was braking down in towards that corner as well. And for Toprak, that's right on the limit. Buluga tries to go with him, and unfortunately, it's just that little step too much.
Buluga might have a problem here with that sector 1. We'll wait and see as we pick up the group behind for 3rd and 4th positions. Petrucci now ahead of Sam Lowe, so Alex Lowe's in 5th position, and Iker Lecuona 6th, 7th Bautista, 8th Ray, 9th Vierge, because Axel Bassani must have served the first half of his long lap penalty. We watch the gap between Toprak Razgatlioglu and Nicolo Buluga. First sector for Toprak Razgatlioglu was 21.7. Nicolo Buluga, it was 22.5. So obviously the stewards have much better information about that micro sector and that particular area of the track through turn 1. But there is a requirement to give up a second when you exit and take that shortcut through the mini chicane effectively at the first bend.
Yeah, you'd be surprised if there's any issue really for Buluga. It'd be very harsh to ping him on it, considering the gap back to Petrucci. Petrucci's going to be attacked into turn 1 here though by Sam Lowe. Sam very strong in that final couple of corners and able to use that slipstream as well.
Lap 7, Danilo Petrucci had a lonely race in 3rd position yesterday. He's got a lot more company this time around from Sam Lowe, who's already made his way through on Alex Lowe, and now Iker Lecuona past the Bimotor man and up into 5th place as well. So Petrucci just doesn't have the same pace that he had in race 1 yesterday afternoon, and he's having to fend them off now for the final step of the podium.
Yeah, we're into the last 3.5 laps, so for the likes of Alvaro Bautista, then they're provisionally on the 3rd row of the grid right now. It's just about trying to make another step, but he's too far back on the back end of that group as well. So he's got a second to make up on Alex Lowe's.
Reality was this race was always about making some progress for Bautista to then have a shot at the podium in race 2. And you'd have to say if he can get onto the second row of the grid, that should be enough for Bautista to be a real challenger later on.
Yeah, I think given the problems that we saw him have where he just couldn't get that bike stopped for a couple of laps, don't be too surprised if he comes in and there's been some sort of an issue with the bike.
A new personal best last time around, though, from Alvaro Bautista, 1 minute 31.480. A gap that was 1.5 seconds to Alex Lowe's has now come down to half a second on this lap. So Bautista is slowly bringing himself back into contention. Might run out of time, well, will run out of time, surely, to get onto the podium because there's 4 bikes between himself and 4th position. But every one he picks up is one less that he's got to pass this afternoon in race 2 to get up on the podium in that particular race.
Yeah, we know in the 22-lap race how strong he'll be at the end of it, but for Alvaro, it's just another one of those weekends where the Superpole sessions just left him that little bit too much work to do.
Yes, a little bit of misfortune yesterday afternoon as well, as we come into lap number 8 with 3 to go. Toprak Razgatlioglu leads by 1.1 over Nicolo Bulliger in second. Danilo Petrucci 2.7 seconds back in third, and only a tenth of a second ahead of Sam Lowe's. So nothing to choose for 3rd and 4th positions. We're watching Alvaro Bautista at the moment back in 7th place. Lecuona's now dropped off 9/10 of a second behind Sam Lowe. So it does look like 5th place potentially is an opportunity for Bautista, who was 3/10 faster than Lecuona last time around. As I said on that previous lap, 7/10 faster than Alex Lowe. So much quicker than the 2 men in front of him, but at the moment doesn't have the pace to think about Petrucci and Sam Lowe's ahead. They're in a separate fight now, 1-on-1 for the last step on the podium.
He's close enough though to have that one chance to come through on Alex Lowe's down the start-finish straight into turn 1, but Lowe's trying to give himself a little bit of a buffer there as well by attacking on the number 7 Honda.
Alex Lowe's, who was able to come over the line in 4th position yesterday, has had such great results in the past in the Superpole race format, but not so much with Bimotor this season. This is looking good, though, for a place on the second row of the grid for race 2 this afternoon as things stand. And he's trying to put a bike between himself and the fast-closing Alvaro Bautista here in the 3-rider scrap for 5th place. Bautista's going to be the danger man, though, for the Bimotor down the start-finish straight as we pick up the 2 race leaders. Can tell you that Nicolo Bulliger is under investigation for course cutting at turn number 1. Of course, there is a requirement to give up a second through that escape road. We watch the action further back now. Alvaro Bautista does come through on Alex Lowe's, and that's for 6th position. Next up, Iker Lecuona for P5.
Toprak lost a half a second in the middle sector there as well compared to Bulliger. The gap down to less than a second now.
So we're watching this race for 5th position. The race for 3rd still only has 3/10 of a second between Danilo Petrucci and Sam Lowe's. Behind this group, Jonathan Ray valiantly holding on for P8. This would be great news for his race too this afternoon. Ahead of Xavi Vierque and Andrea Locatelli still with a shot at the top 9 in the latter stages. Ray's going to have to work hard here to fend them off on the final 2 laps, and another test of character for the 6-time world champion. You can just see him in the background there with Vierque and Locatelli on his tail. Next opportunity for Alvaro Bautista, you'd expect to be on the exit of that final turn. We saw him make his move, of course, on Iker Lecuona yesterday, and he'll be trying to do the same again this time around. Lap 9, Bautista again wide, as we saw in the early stages of this race.
Yeah, through turn 10 as well. Alex Lowe's a lot faster than Bautista in that section, so Alvaro's just struggling a little bit with the bike, and he's got the track position on Lowe's for a second row start, but he's also got that top speed. It's going to be difficult for Lowe's to attack him, but he's not close enough to be able to try and put some pressure onto Iker Lecuona right now. The gap, 1.5 seconds. Lecuona looks pretty safe right now for another top 5 finish.
1 lap to go for Toprak Razgatlioglu. He's advised that the gap is a second, but by the time he actually crosses the line, the advantage is 1.4 seconds. The fight for 3rd place, though, only a 1/10 of a second between those two as they come across the line. Which order did they come through in turn 1? Petrucci versus Sam Lowe's. Lecuona, Bautista and Alex Lowe's with nothing to choose between them either. And Sam Lowe's is all over the back of Danilo Petrucci like a rash, but has not been able to find his way through. And Bautista clawing onto the tail of Iker Lecuona, but he couldn't find his way past into turn 1 either. So turn 15, the next one to really watch in these 2 scraps, 1 for 3rd, 1 for 5th.
Yeah, you can see for Alvaro to hold that tighter line in the first of those change their directions. But Lecuona, he's got a bike with good top speed. It's going to be tricky for Alvaro to be able to out-accelerate him on the run from this section up towards turn 15. You can see for Petrucci as well, holding on to that final podium spot. And he's got those couple of tenths in hand on Sam.
as we see Alvaro Bautista stalking Iker Lecuona for 5th place. 6th would still be a decent result for Bautista to get him onto the second row of the grid, but that's another opportunity that goes by for Alvaro Bautista.
Turn 20 is the last opportunity, and it's literally just put your bike down the inside and force the other rider to step it up.
Same for Sam Lowes, of course, with a place on the podium up for grabs here. We watch the 2 race leaders. This is dead and buried, this battle, 2 seconds between them. Here is Danilo Petrucci. Sam Lowes does cut to the inside line. He's not quite close enough. Bautista dives for the inside on Iker Lecuona for 5th place. Toprak Razgatlioglu will take his 2nd consecutive win here in Most. But will it be Bautista or will it be Lecuona for 5th place? Bulliger 2nd, Petrucci over the line for 3rd, Sam Lowes 4th, and Bautista does get through on Iker Lecuona, and it will be Alex Lowes, Xavi Vierke and Andrea Locatelli to complete your points-paying position. So Jonathan Rea loses out on 2 places in the final 2 laps and will have to go again from down on the 5th row of the grid in race 2 this afternoon. What a shame for Jonathan Rea.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what happened to Johnny in those last couple of laps, but he's the unlucky man outside the bubble in those top 9 spots. Locatelli just able to claw back a lot of time on Rea in those last few laps as well, so that gap had been up over a second. This is down in towards turn 20. Let's see Alvaro Bautista's move on Iker Lecuona. Just going to park it down the inside, force Lecuona to step it up, but for Alvaro, gets that bike stopped nicely, and it's a good move from Alvaro, and it's going to be rewarded with an extra point and then more importantly an extra position on the grid.
Yes, Bautista just struggling on those opening 2 laps because he'd already effectively got through on Lecuona in the early running. It was only Alex Lowes that he actually made up a position on because he was 6th pretty much from the word go, and those opening 2 laps in the end pretty costly for Alvaro Bautista because you would have been anticipating him being with Petrucci and Sam Lowes more so perhaps than with Alex Lowes and Iker Lecuona.
Yeah, exactly, and it'll be interesting to see what happens at the start of the race in this afternoon's race too, because for Alvaro, we saw it again in this race where he had a lot of work to do from the 4th row of the grid, and he was able to make his progress in the middle of that race, but he struggled at times as well. We saw him really running deep into a couple of corners on a few laps where getting the bike stopped into turn 13 and into turn 15 seemed really tricky for him, so maybe just a little bit of an issue there for him with what he was feeling from the tyres or the bike underneath him, but it just wasn't quite what he needed.
Worth mentioning again that Nicolo Bulliger is under investigation for potential course cutting at turn 1, and that's the regulation that requires riders to lose a second if they do take a shortcut at any area of the circuit. You said it earlier on, Steve, it would be tough given the fact that he'd already lost the position to Toprak and he was so far clear of Danilo Petrucci. I also fancy at this stage that if a penalty were to be put in, it would probably be 3 seconds and wouldn't make any difference anyway.
Yeah, he'd be given a 3.9 second penalty and finish a 10th a second ahead of Petrucci.
Yes, that would seem a reasonable course of action to take if there was indeed not the 1 second given up. We're going purely, I said at the time, on that 1 sector time, but actually there's a little bit more detail to it than that because the rest of the sector also places a factor on that.
Yeah, they're able to break the sector up into different mini sectors as well, and that first sector actually has 3 different parts of it as well that the stewards are able to look at, so they're able to see the time from when you go through the speed trap until you exit turn 2 and you exit the chicane, so for them they're able to see exactly what the situation was. I think it's very unlikely anything will happen to Bulliger. Even if you give him a long lap penalty, time penalty, he still comes out ahead of Petrucci, so yeah, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, exactly. A long lap penalty would have been 2.5, 3 seconds anyway. His advantage over Petrucci is 4 seconds across the line, so even if there is a penalty for Bulliger, it's not going to make any difference to the final result, which hasn't been confirmed yet, but Toprak Razgatlioglu, Nicolo Bulliger and Danilo Petrucci is the way they finish. And they have already made their way into Parc Fermé, but normally when there's an investigation for one of the top 3, we do get advised when the podium result is confirmed. That hasn't been the case as yet. Sam Lowes finishing in 4th position, nothing behind Danilo Petrucci, less than a 1/10 of a second across the line, so there was a good battle going on there. As I said at the top of the programme, the story of that race was Alvaro Bautista, so we were following him fighting his way through, but for Sam Lowes, entertaining scrap with Danilo Petrucci, 2 for 3rd, just having to follow his exhaust throughout in the end.
Yeah, just misses out in that podium by a couple of bike lengths, and again, it's another good indication of the progress that Sam and Mark VDS are making, but for Petrucci, podium again here in Most, and a very good solid ride from Danilo. He didn't make any mistakes and he was under pressure the whole way.
Warriors performance, that again from Nicolo Bulliger. He didn't sort of rescind and give up once Razgatlioglu made through. He didn't relax and back off. He fought back again. Ultimately, though, Toprak had too much, as we anticipated before we got underway. But Bulliger made a good race of it for the first half of that Superpole race.
Yeah, no, especially whenever he was making his moves and attacking into turn one, you were able to see a rider that really wants to put the pressure on Toprak, and it's good to see. It's exactly what we used to see from Jonathan Ray whenever he was up against Toprak and not willing to cede anything in his battles to him. And certainly for Bulliger, he's the rider with everything to lose. He's the championship leader. He's already had that big crash this weekend, and he was still willing to put it on the line. So that's impressive to see from Nico.
So a look at the race results and what that does in terms of the championship. Toprak Razgatlioglu wins by 1.9 seconds, another 4 seconds back to Danilo Petrucci, less than a tenth ahead of Sam Lowe's. Alvaro Bautista and Iker Lecuona will complete the second row of the grid. Good final lap pass from Bautista on Lecuona. Third row of the grid for Alex Lowe's, Xavi Vierke and Andrea Locatelli, with Jonathan Ray just missing out, and Jari Montella relegated down to 11th place. The championship then, Toprak makes up another 3 points on Bulliger. The gap's now down to 26 points. Alvaro Bautista only 5th place, so he's now 86 down on Nicolo Bulliger, and again beaten by Danilo Petrucci, so only 11 points ahead now in the battle for third in the World Championship. Another difficult weekend for Andrea Locatelli. Picks up only 1 point there, which means that Petrucci moves another 6 further ahead of him. It's not been an easy one here in Most as far as the Yamahas are concerned.
Yeah, and for Locatelli, after Cremona as well, the crash in race 1 and Cremona scoring points in the other 2 races, but it was dropped opportunities in Cremona, and then this weekend has already shown itself to be very difficult for him as well.
So it's back-to-back podiums here in Most for Danilo Petrucci, narrowly holding on ahead of Sam Lowe's in the run to the flag, and after defending throughout that race really from the very early laps, but ultimately third throughout, and it is another podium for Danilo Petrucci, his 5th here in Most.
Danilo, another podium here this weekend, 2 from 2 so far, but you had to keep Sam behind you throughout that race. Just explain how difficult that was, and were you expecting an attack on the final lap?
Yeah, it was tough because I did a good start, tried to stay with Nicolo, but Toprak was in rush and overtook me immediately. I tried to stay with them, but as yesterday they have something more this morning, even a little bit more. But then compared to yesterday, I had Sam behind me, always pushing me, and I was a little bit wide at turn 1, and I say no, he's directly on my back, and yeah, I try to do my best. Another podium is good, but yeah, I think we have to improve our performance for race 2 because we'll be tough, but I will be happy to be here again.
Well done again, all the best for race 2.
Danilo Petrucci, 3rd position. As I say, if anything, that one was harder for him than race 1 yesterday afternoon, because he was able to go with the leaders in the first 7-8 laps yesterday, just more or less keep with their pace, and then the rest of the pack was far too far behind to challenge him. Today, he looked sluggish in those early laps, did well to hold on to 3rd position, and ultimately defended it right the way to the finish. So an even better ride, really, from Petrucci there, able to make up for a bit of a deficiency compared perhaps to some of the riders around him.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, in the Superpole race, it's always a very different race, and if you don't immediately get that break to go with the 2 race leaders, you can get yourself in a battle, and everyone's got the tyre underneath them to contend with you and challenge you. But Danilo rode a really good race there, didn't put a foot wrong.
Another valiant effort from Nicolo.